First cousin to Bill Bailey. Ladies, welcome, Governor Romney and all of us who are assembled this evening to the breadbasket of Ohio. Agriculture is our #1 industry, and Shelby County, Auglaize County, Mercer, and Darke counties in the aggregate produce about 10% of total food production in this great state every year. How about that? As a fourth-generation ag business family owner, let me tell you that agriculture is about families. We have love of God, love of country, love of family, and the values of honesty, integrity, ethics, loyalty, work ethic. We know that hard work pays big dividends for our families. But for the last 3.5 years, President Obama's policies have increased the regulatory burden on our economy, crushing small business and family farms. On his watch, America has sat on the sidelines while our major trading competitors have been moving forward aggressively, putting our jobs at risk. Just oppose the failure in Washington with the great leadership coming from Governor Kasich here in Ohio. Here at the state level, we've been lowering the cost of doing business with less taxing, less regulating, and balanced budgets. We're doing much better with a dynamic governor like John Kasich. But I'm here today to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we could be doing a whole lot more if we had a true partner in Washington like Mitt Romney. Yeah! We need Governor Romney elected president so that the values that we hold dear are spread throughout the entire land. Governor Romney is one of us. He is a man of faith. He's a man of integrity. He's a patriot. He leads by example and possesses all the values that we do here in West Central Ohio. Amen. Amen is right. He's led in the public and private sector like our own John Kasich. We need Governor Romney elected president so that the rest of the citizens will follow his lead. When Governor Romney is elected president, he will plant the seeds that will grow and mature into crops of more jobs, more responsibility, and more freedom. That's what this is about. I encourage all of you to go to your county boards of election in any weekday from here till November 2nd and vote early for Mitt Romney. We need you out there voting early so that we can all work hard on Election Day and focus on those crucial undecided voters in the closing days so that we're over the top. We cannot afford 4 more years of this mess. We need Mitt Romney. That's that simple. Now it's my privilege to introduce a good friend, Ellen Joslin, who is a longtime farmer, along with her husband Rob here in Shelby County. I've known her many years through our association with the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation, of which she is a state board trustee. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Sidney's own Ellen Joslin.
Well, thank you, Jim. Well, good evening. Like he said, my name is Ellen Joslin, and I'm a farmer, a farm wife, and I'm ready for a change for the better. I'm ready to put Mitt Romney in the White House. How about you? You know, our Shelby County farm has been in the family for 4 generations. We, like a lot of farm families, are concerned about the future of not only our farm business, but our livelihood as well. You see, agriculture is more than a business to farm families like ours. It's a way of life. It's a way of life to provide a safe and abundant food supply to our nation and the world. It's a way of life to grow the fiber for clothing and industry. And increasingly important, it's a way of life on the farm to produce energy, making us less dependent on foreign oil. I'm proud to stand here tonight and tell you that American agriculture is vibrant, but it needs leadership. It needs the kind of leadership we see in Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney understands that our rural heritage, our work ethic, and our respect for our shared natural resources is what makes the American farmer the most productive in the world. We need Mitt Romney's leadership on agricultural tax policies that eliminate the federal estate tax once and for all. We need Mitt Romney's leadership to pursue trade policies that expand upon the success of agriculture, not limit it. We also need Mitt Romney's leadership to create a regulatory environment that is common sense, cost effective. And yes, we need Mitt Romney's leadership to achieve energy independence on this continent by 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to Shelby County, and please join me in voting for Mitt Romney on November 6th. And now I'd like you to please welcome your state senator and soon to be the president of the Senate from the great state of Ohio, the 12th District Representative, Senator Keith Faber.
Well, good afternoon, Shelby County. I need to do some housekeeping here before I get started. Our congressman and our good friend Jim Jordan couldn't be here tonight. He planned on being here, but he got tied up in Congressional House oversight hearings on this whole Libyan Benghazi mess. And I don't know if any of you followed that today. I was real excited to hear his hard questions. You know, one of the questions we're going to have to figure out is, does this president believe the buck stops on his desk, or does he still believe the buck needs to stop someplace else? When you have an ambassador killed, the question is, why? And they're trying to get to the bottom of that in Washington, D.C., and Jim's there working hard. I know Polly's here. Let me give a shout out to Polly Jordan. Let's give her a great round of applause. I want to talk to you about two things today. First, I want to talk to you about Issue 2. How many of you are familiar with Issue 2 on the ballot? Good. It's bad. If you need more explanation of Issue 2, I'll just give you the quote from the other side's lawyer. He said, the language is so confusing it takes 3 law degrees to figure it out. Well, if it's that confusing, why are you trying to stick it in the Ohio Constitution? You see, Issue 2 is all about changing the rules. It's about changing the rules when the other side couldn't win by following the rules. Now, I could go on and talk to you for a long time about what it means. But essentially, Issue 2 is all about changing the way we draw lines in the state of Ohio. You see, they want to make Ohio a center-left state. They want to use the California-style rules. They want to put in standards and an unelected, unaccountable bureaucracy that the administration, that was just estimated to cost between $15 and $20 million to implement new legislative and congressional lines. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure we don't need to waste that kind of money. And so from that perspective, join me in voting no on Issue 2. No. So how are we going to vote? No. Thank you. Now, the other issue I want to talk about is probably the most important issue I could talk to all of you about. You know, I get asked all the time. They say, Keith, why is it that you go to Columbus and you work so hard and you do all the things you do and have to spend time away from your family? And for me, it's a simple answer. You know, I've got a 5-year-old daughter named Brooke and a 7-year-old son named Adam. Many of you in this audience have met him. And in fact, there's a young man standing right back here. Step aside and let Mr. Boley come forward. Come on up here, Nate. There you go. Nate got to ride roller coasters with my son Adam just a couple of weeks ago at Cedar Point. And you see, why do I do what I do? Why do I believe so much in the future of this state? You see, it's all about my kids and your grandkids. We have a choice in this country. We have a choice of whether we're going to continue down the left path or whether we're going to go down the right path. That's the choice you all have here tonight. That's the choice you're going to have in just a few weeks. You know what? Let's not wait that few weeks to make that choice. That's the other thing I want to talk to you about tonight. You see, the other side has a plan. They wanted 35 days of voting. They wanted Golden Week where you could register and vote at the same time. They got all that. They've got federal judges deciding the election laws in this state. But you know what? We don't have to sit down and take it. We can beat them at their own game. We can get out there and vote early too. So, tonight, in this audience, there are men and women passing out absentee ballot applications. How many of you have gotten your absentee ballot application already? Get them filled out. Now, I know some of you are like the Fabers, and you say, you know, we have a tradition. We take Adam and Brooke to the election, to the ballot, and vote with them on election day. That's okay if that's the way you do it. But you know what? You never know what's going to happen between now and election day. So what I'll ask you to do, send in for that absentee ballot. Send in for that absentee ballot. Cast that vote. If you don't need to be there on election day, go out. Get that vote in the bank. Because you know what? I know that every single one of you, if you vote, we're going to elect a new president. If you vote, we're going to elect Mitt Romney as our president. You know, it's just this simple. It's just this simple. If the people along the Golden Highway of I-75 in Western Ohio get out and vote, Mitt Romney will be the next president of the United States. So I need you to do that for me, and I need you to do one other thing. I need you to get on the phone tonight when you get home. And after you hear the wonderful words of our leaders, Governor Kasich and Rob Portman and the next president, Mitt Romney, I want you to call your friends. I want you to call your family. I want you to call your children. Heck, I even want you to call the neighbor down the street and the lady who sits next to you at church. And I want you to say, please, it's for our kids' sake. Please, it's for our grandkids' sake. Please, go out and vote. If you need an absentee ballot application, I'll drive it over to your house. Whatever it takes, let's get her done. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Remember to vote. Vote early. If the other side were here, they'd say vote often. We only vote once. But we're okay with voting early. Thanks a lot. God bless you, and God bless Shelby County.
Thank you, Senator Faber. Are the bands queued up? We need to hear some band music. Where are we at? Chris Adams? Where'd they go? All right, there's some bands. Let's hear it. His cue was... Okay, that was the cue. What I saw was the fear on his face. You didn't see it, but I saw it. Okay. We're going to listen to these fine bands here. They're going to fill in for us just a little bit. Again, these are some of the finest that Shelby County has to offer. It would have been great if all the bands could have been here this evening, but I tell you what, we're having trouble getting people in. But everybody's getting through. I see we're not around the track yet. We're around the track, but people are up against the, they're standing up against there just like I used to, looking the other way, watching the horse racing when I was just this tall, peering through the fence at the demolition derby. So, okay, all right. When you band members are ready, now that I've scared the dickens out of you, just hold just a little bit. We'll give you a cue, but blow some warm air through that tuba, and we'll be right with you.
Ladies and welcome your governor of the great state of Ohio, John Casey.
Sun coming up over New York City. School bus driver in a traffic jam, staring at the faces in a rearview mirror.
You ready to win this election and have a new president? Are you all ready for it? Well, we got the next president back there. He's going to come and see you real soon. Can we let him hear us? Huh? Well, I don't know about you, but could you believe that debate? Huh? Could you believe that debate? Well, let me just tell you, my view of it is that without the filtered lens of people who interpret events, people saw Mitt Romney the other night, and they embraced him, they liked him, they respected him, and they saw him as the next president of the United States. That's what he did. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, we're doing better in Ohio. We're doing better in Ohio. Ohio's coming back, thanks to my friends in the legislature and the job creators. That's who gets the credit. And by the way, Ohio government didn't build the comeback. Okay, they didn't build it. It's the people that built the comeback. And all we're doing is getting out of the way and making sure that businesses have incentives to expand and create jobs. And that's the number one moral issue in our country today. Because when you have a job, your family's stronger, your children do better. That's what it is all about. But I have to tell you, the wind is always in our face. You know, I've become to believe that this administration thinks, and, you know, they are entitled to their opinion, and that's okay, doesn't make them bad people, but they think that if we can just make government bigger and spend more money on government programs, somehow that's going to create jobs. They got it completely wrong. And Mitt Romney understands exactly what it takes to create the jobs, and he did it as a private, and one thing we need in politics today is somebody that actually knows how to create jobs. No more politicians. We need people who have the experience to create jobs, and he's done it. And he's run that state of Massachusetts and took it from deficits to surpluses, from job losses to job creators. And nobody will forget the work he did at those Olympic Games where he showed the measure of real leadership. That's what it was all about. And folks, even though we're recovering, we got the wind in our face. Got this giant national debt. The president said he was going to cut it in half, and it's grown. And hey, I worry about our children. I worry about my 12-year-old twin daughters and the fact that they're saddled with this, and all they want to do is spend more and make the debt bigger. You got to be kidding me. And then the blizzard of regulations. We got a lot of farmers out here. You know, we have an EPA in Ohio that wants to work with you. We have an EPA in Washington that doesn't get it at all. That's why we need a new president and a new head of the EPA so farmers can be more successful, not only in Ohio, but across America. And by the way, I hope you all know, you small business people, that Mitt Romney wants to kill the death tax. We did it in Ohio. We need to do it in Washington so you don't visit the undertaker and the IRS on the same day. Get rid of it. Give people a reason to work hard and to build stronger families. So whether it's big debt, a threat of higher taxes, regulations that, frankly, are counterproductive to job growth, we have to have a new president if Ohio is going to be able to really reclaim its status as one of the great states in America. Because right now, the wind is in our face. And with Mitt Romney as president, we will have common sense regulations. We're going to work with business to make sure that we get it right. We protect this environment, but at the same time, be in a mode for creating jobs. We're not going to raise. Could you imagine they think what we can do to solve the problem in Washington is to tax us more? Why don't they get their act together like Ohio families have and learn to live within your means? When I was there, we did that. So whether it's dealing with the debt, whether it's having common sense regulations, or getting us in a position of where we can encourage entrepreneurship, creativity, and innovation. That's why we need Mitt Romney as the president. And I've got to tell you, what was so interesting the other night is the president couldn't seem to defend his own record. And tomorrow night, we get to watch Joe Biden try to do that, huh? You know, I know he thinks he's a good debater. He also thinks he's a good golfer, and I played golf with him, and I can tell you that's not true. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. But what it gets down to is this, the eye of the tiger. We know what we have in this man. He gets our problems. He understands us. He understands what makes America go. He will do what needs to be done to reduce our debt the same way that Keith Faber and my colleagues in the legislature, John Adams, balanced our budget. He will work to balance that budget. He will provide the incentives so that our young people know that they can realize all their hopes and dreams. And I think you've all figured out by now, I just don't say things because they might sound good. I feel so strongly about this, and I just heard Keith Faber talk about it. You know, when I was a kid, my dad carried mail on his back. My father's father was a coal miner. My mother's mother couldn't speak English. And my mother and father always told me the American dream was this, Johnny. We're going to work like crazy, and we're going to save, and we're going to sacrifice, but we're also going to put it in your heart that you're going to be stronger and better and more successful than our generation. That's our greatest legacy, isn't it? The fact that our children will be able to do better than what we do. And the idea that we're stuck or we're standing still, that's not America. That's not the dream that we all got when we were kids. And tonight there's a lot of kids here. I just met a little 6-year-old girl who's freezing over there. And I said, well, you might get to meet the next president. And she sort of half smiled because she's freezing over there. But you know why we love our children? Because we pass our hopes and dreams for a better life on to them. And that's what this election is all about. It's not about name calling or any of these other things. You know what it's about? Who can best provide that beautiful legacy to our children that not only will we be strong, but they will be stronger. And the pro-growth policies of Mitt Romney, the way he understands job creation and dealing with his debt and having the courage to take it on will make a difference for America. It's up to all of us. And I heard Keith say it, when you go to church, when you go to the synagogue, when your neighbor says, I don't know if I'm going to vote, each and every one of us makes a difference in the outcome of this election. And by the way, being at this fairgrounds and seeing this crowd, to the national press, we're going to win. Thank you all very much, and God bless you.
Cross a few creeks in a couple little shacks.
Wow! What a crowd! This is amazing. Thank you so much for that welcome. This is a lot of fun. A little cold out here, but this January, I was in Fairbanks, Alaska, and it was -40. We had some extra time, and they said, well, let's go hold some street signs. So I was holding street signs -40 in Alaska. Then I got an email from my brother, who was campaigning for my dad in Guam. So you got Josh Romney. You didn't get the favorite son, apparently, but you did get one of the sons. I love being on the campaign trail for my dad. I love being able to do this. I love being able to meet people all across the country who care so passionately about this country that they're willing to come out and rally like this and volunteer and make phone calls. How many of you, is this your first political rally you've ever been to? That's enthusiasm. That is what this election is all about. People who are getting involved for the first time in their lives, that is inspiring to me to see that. So many of you recognize how critical this election is and what it means. I don't know if anyone saw the debate a week ago. You may, if you saw it, then you recognize that I'm responsible for my dad winning that. My brothers and I, as kids, we gave him good training by being very obstinate kids. We gave my dad good training. We're the reason he won the debate, so I take a lot of credit in that. I will tell you, I've got 5 kids of my own, and as I think about my dad and all the great things he's done for me, the thing he's most taught me is how to be a dad. That's the most important thing he taught me, is how to be a dad to my 5 kids. That's the thing I'm most proud of him for, and that's the reason I'm... And of all the things he is good at in life, being a dad is number 1. He is an amazing, amazing person. I'm proud of him. I love him. I heard a chant going on before I came out, 4 more weeks. We're actually a little less than that, 27 days. That's an important thing. We've got a big event coming up in 27 days. Even more importantly, however, to many of you, is in 45 days, there's an Ohio-Michigan game. So we do have to keep our priorities in order, right? I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be with my dad on the campaign trail. They a lot of times send me off on my own. So for me, this is an honor to be able to introduce someone who's my hero and the next president of the United States of America, my dad, Mitt Romney. Thank you.
Twisting, turning further from my home. Young, like a new moon rising, fierce through the rain and lightning, wandering out into this great unknown. And I don't want no one to cry, but tell them if I don't survive,
Governor John Kasich, for that introduction. Thank you. And my son Josh, what a great guy, huh? And thank you to Colin Ray for entertaining everybody this evening. What a great entertainer. Thank you, Colin. Appreciate it. Wow, this is quite a crowd. That's an Ohio welcome. Thank you, guys. Great to be here. You know, I've been seeing some of these rallies for the opposition on TV, and they typically have a chant, 4 more years, 4 more years. But I checked my calendar. I think it's 4 more weeks is a better chant, don't you think? This is a... Thanks, you guys. Look, I'm overwhelmed by the number of people here. There are even people out there. That's another county over there, but I appreciate the chance to see you out there. Thanks so much for being here. I know there's a lot of interest in the campaign these days. People are concerned about what's happening in our country. They want to see better times ahead, and they're coming. I know that a lot of folks are struggling. 23 million people out of work, looking for better jobs, struggling to get a better job. We see 1 out of 6 families in poverty. Even those that have work, having some tough times because incomes have come down. Last 4 years, the median income in America has dropped by $4,300 a family. And with median income around $50,000, that's a huge drop. And the president promised that he'd get health insurance premiums down $2,500 a family. They're up $2,500 a family. That's a $5,000 difference. Middle-income families are struggling. Gasoline prices, you've seen those, doubled since he's been president or more. And these have been tough times. The president's answer to this is to say he's going to save Big Bird. My view is it's time to have a president that will save the American family and help people across this country have a bright and prosperous future. I've been saying that I don't think we can afford 4 more years of, well, the last kind of 4 years we've had. I think people recognize there's a high cost to re-electing President Obama. If we were to re-elect him, we'd see chronic unemployment continue. We'd see high gasoline prices continued. We'd see incomes continue to go down. We'd see the kind of fiscal crisis happening here that's happening elsewhere. We can't afford 4 more years of Barack Obama. And the key thing I want people across Ohio to understand and to ask themselves as you go into the voting booth, as you vote, is can we really afford the cost of Barack Obama? And the answer is no. Now, we had a debate about a week ago, as you may know, and it's a good experience. And it was a chance for people to see what we actually believe, as opposed to just seeing what's on TV and the ads, which don't always characterize accurately our views. And we heard what the president had to say, and people heard what I had to say, and they're pretty starkly different. We both care very deeply about helping the middle class in America and helping get people out of poverty and into the middle class. But our pathways for how to do that couldn't be more different. He, for instance, wants to raise taxes from 35% to 40% on about 1 million of the small businesses in our country. I want to lower taxes on small business to create more jobs. He wants to put in place a more expensive death tax, which of course would make it a heck of a lot harder for people to pass farms on to the coming generation. My view is we ought to get rid of the death tax altogether. It's simply not fair. He wants to raise the tax on savings. He wants to make it more expensive to save your money. My view is if you're middle class, making $200,000 a year and less, there should be no tax on interest, dividends, or capital gains. Let people save their money without having to pay tax on it. On the export front, you realize, of course, and I know a number of you are in the agricultural community, 23 million American jobs count on agriculture. It's a huge part of our economy. About 1 million jobs depend on export of agricultural products. And over the last 4 years, the president has signed no new trade agreements, no new opportunities for America to sell goods outside our nation. We can compete. Our farmers can compete. Our manufacturers can compete with anyone in the world. But he hasn't opened up these markets for us. I will go to work to get Trade Promotion Authority to open up new trade for America so we can compete on a fair basis across the world and create more jobs here. Now, the president has described his energy policy. He says one thing, but you can look at his record, it's pretty different. Because he's been in office for 4 years, and he has cut in about half the permits and licenses that go on federal lands for putting in place oil wells, drilling, whether it's on federal lands, by the way, or federal waters. My own view is we ought to double the licenses on federal lands and in federal waters for drilling. And I want to make sure we drill up in Alaska as well, and I want to get that pipeline in from Canada to take advantage of those resources. His policies will lead to what he said when he was campaigning 4 years ago. He said, look, if my policies get put in place, the cost of energy will skyrocket. Well, America's farmers can't afford those skyrocketing energy prices, and I'm going to go to work to get North American energy independence so we can have confidence in our future when it comes to energy. There's another place we think very differently. That's with regards to the military. The president has cut the military budget by about $500 billion, and then through his sequestration idea, another $500 billion on top. The Secretary of Defense has said these kind of cuts would be devastating. I will not cut our military commitment. Our military must be second to none. And then there was one more area we talked about differences, and that had to do with jobs and the economy and how to get the economy going. You heard the president's answer. It's basically a continuation of what we've seen over the past 4 years. He calls it forward. I call it forewarned. He's in favor of another stimulus. How'd the first stimulus work? He wants to hire more government workers. Nothing wrong with government workers, but that's not going to create jobs across America and get us back to work with higher incomes. He says he also wants to raise taxes. That sure as heck doesn't create jobs. That kills jobs. His tax plan
is estimated to cost about 700,000 jobs. My tax plan creates 7 million jobs. So we have very different views. My plan to get us working again has 5 key parts. I mentioned some of them already. Number 1, take advantage of coal, oil, gas, nuclear, renewables. Get America strong when it comes to energy. And let us also remember those miners who are trapped. You've heard about that. 2 miners trapped today in a collapse at a mine. Apparently they're safe. Is that right, Governor? We believe at this stage. Let us keep them in our prayers and thoughts. We want them to come out safely and well. We're going to become energy secure. And by the way, that creates not just jobs in the energy sector, but also in manufacturing. I was today at a place that makes compressors. These monstrous compressors, like 4 or 5 bales of hay in a row. Great big compressors. I said, what do you use them for? They said, well, you know, when natural gas comes out of the ground, it doesn't naturally flow in a pipe. You gotta push it. You gotta compress it. So they make compressors that push that natural gas. There's a lot of manufacturing associated with our energy sector. And there are a lot of manufacturers that use energy as a major component in their product. And so having low-cost energy will bring back manufacturing jobs. We've lost over 500,000 manufacturing jobs during President Obama's term. I want to bring manufacturing back to this country, and energy is one way we'll do it. Number 2, trade. I mentioned trade. I want to open up more trade, particularly in Latin America. Latin America has an economy almost the size of China. We're all very excited about the opportunities in China, but don't forget the folks right next door and the advantage we have next door. And by the way, when China cheats in trade and steals our jobs unfairly, we're going to finally say no and make them accountable. Number 3, we got to make sure our training programs work for the workers of today and the jobs they need. Do you know there are 47 different federal training programs? 47, reporting to 8 different federal agencies. Think of all the overhead, all the bureaucracy. I want to take all the dollars that are spent at these federal training programs and bundle up Ohio's fair share and make sure it comes back to Ohio so Ohio can use it to get jobs for the people in Ohio that need those jobs. Number 4, we're going to get a balanced budget. We can't keep on spending more than we take in. It's killing our future. The president's spending too much. I think it's morally wrong for us to spend our kids' future as we're doing, and I'm going to cap federal spending. I'm going to cut federal spending and get us on track to that balanced budget. And number 5, I'm going to champion small business. I want to make it easier for small businesses to grow. Small business is where 2/3 of our jobs are created. And when I go across the country and talk to small business folks, they say sometimes they feel that the government is their enemy, not their ally. I want them to understand that the role of government is to protect our freedoms, to make it easier for enterprisers to get out and begin their businesses and to put people to work. I want regulators to see their job as creating regulations that make markets work, that don't crush the entrepreneurs. I want taxes to be low for entrepreneurs, for people who are building jobs. And by the way, I want to make sure that Obamacare gets out of the way of creating jobs. Now I want you to know how confident I am in the future. America is an extraordinary nation. We face great challenges, but over the last 4 years, we have not had the kind of strong leadership we needed in Washington to take on our challenges. Time and again, the president's told us he'd take on some of these things, but hasn't. And then he turns around and tries to blame others. Congress won't get together. Congress won't get together unless there's a strong leader that puts them together. He won't, he hasn't, I will. My confidence in the future comes from the fact that I go across the country and I'm inspired by the people I meet. It's quite a nation. I was at the Republican convention a few weeks ago and met Jane Horton. Jane, wonderful woman, her husband, a sharpshooter in the Army, sent over to Afghanistan. She's packing up a package for him with some birthday goodies when she gets a knock at the door and learns that he's been killed in Afghanistan. And her reaction is not to become depressed and despondent, but actually to go to work and try and help other families that have lost loved ones in conflict. And at the time of the funeral of her husband, when his remains were brought back, she was asked what she thought about the people who were there, because this was a time when some of those misguided people were showing up at the funerals of our military officers and military personnel and protesting. And she said this. She said, they asked her, what do you think about these people protesting at your husband's funeral? And she said, Chris died so people like them can protest. This is the character of America. We're a big-hearted people. We recognize the greatness of the Constitution and the principles upon which this nation was founded. The president seems to be changing America in ways that many of us don't recognize, making us more and more like Europe. I don't want to become like Europe. Europe doesn't work there. I want America to become more like America. I want to restore the principles that made us the nation we are. I'm inspired by men like Christopher Horton, her husband, and his willingness to serve his country. Would those who are in our armed forces or our veterans please raise your hands so we can recognize you? Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country love, and mercy more than life. We appreciate our men and women in uniform from today and from the past and for tomorrow. Let me tell you also just an experience I had that reminded me of something about the American character, our pioneering spirit, our willingness to sacrifice for the future, our willingness to reach out and make a difference in the life of others. This happened to be some years ago. I was in my home state of Massachusetts, and I was attending a Boy Scout Court of Honor. And there's a Boy Scouter back there. And at a Court of Honor, for those that are not familiar with it, it's a place where young men who are ready to receive an eagle are awarded their eagle, and others who are getting other merit recognitions are able to do so. I was one of the kind of civilian leaders in our Scout program, so I was kind of in the front of the room. They had some Formica tables set out, and I was at the far end of the Formica table next to the American flag there. And the person who got up to speak at the event was a Scoutmaster from Monument, Colorado. And he got up and he talked about his Scout troop and how they wanted to have a special American flag. And so they purchased one with gold tassels around the outside, and they had it flown above their state capitol, as I recall. They sent it also to Washington, to have it flown above the Capitol building in Washington. And when it came back, the boys said, hey, one more thing, we'd like it to go on the shuttle, the space shuttle. And so they contacted NASA and said, hey, would you take our flag on the space shuttle? And I'm sure NASA said to them, hey, space is at a premium in space, all right? We can't just sort of take everybody's souvenirs. But they relented, and they took these boys' flag on the mission and put it in a plastic container along with, I guess, some coins and medals that other troops and other groups had given them to take on this journey. And the Scoutmaster said the boys were so proud as they were in their various home rooms at school watching the rocket take off and the shuttle go off into the space, and then they saw it explode before their eyes. This was that tragedy that occurred in the Challenger mission. And he said that he called NASA a couple of weeks later and said, have you found any remnant of our flag? We'd like to keep it in memory of those people who sacrificed for our great nation. And they said, no, I'm sorry, we haven't found anything from the flag. And he said he called every week from about, as I recall, it was from like February till May or June. Just called and called and called every week or so. And every week they said no. And then about September, he said he was reading an article in a paper, and it talked about the debris that had been found from the Challenger disaster. And it mentioned something about a flag. So he called NASA, and in fact, they had found a remnant of his flag, of the Boy Scouts flag. And so the Boy Scouts and NASA came together, and he said, we were presented with a plastic container. And we opened that container, and there was our flag in perfect condition. And then he said, and there it is on the flagpole here at the end of the Formica table next to Mitt Romney. And I looked over at that flag, and I pulled it out, and it was like electricity was running through my arms as I thought about where that flag had been. And I thought about the men and women who sacrificed, who put themselves in danger in exploring space, trying to provide more knowledge for the American people. It's who we are. We're a people given to great causes. We live our lives for things bigger than ourselves. Whether in the military, whether in a home with a single mom who's trying to raise a kid or two or three, whether it's a dad who's taking on multiple jobs. In all sorts of ways, Americans give themselves for something bigger than themselves. That flag represents that to me. It suggests to me greatness in the American spirit and the American heart. I know that America is going to come back in every way we must to continue to lead the world. It's our turn. It's our turn as young people here. I call myself young. I'm only 65. You see, the greatest generation gave us this nation. They sacrificed to give us a land with prosperity and freedom. And they held aloft a torch for the world to see, a torch of freedom and hope and opportunity. But there are not as many in the greatest generation as there used to be. And those that are here can't hold the torch as high as they used to. And so it is our turn to take that torch and hold it aloft for the world to see. We need a strong America with strong values in our homes, with a commitment to principles greater than ourselves. We need an economy that's so strong it can provide for our families, and also so strong it can provide for a military that can protect our interests and protect our friends. I commit with all my energy to keeping America strong, to rebuilding the principles in our homes and our communities that lead to a strong economy, to getting our economy working as it should again, and to building a military second to none in the world. These things I will do, and I need your help. I need your help. I need you to go out and find neighbors who voted for Barack Obama and to come join our team. I need you to go out and find people and get them to vote absentee, get people voting. This is a critical election. Ohio could well be the place that elects the next president of the United States. I need you to do that job. We're going to win together. We're taking back America. We're going to make sure she remains the hope of the earth. Thank you so very much. You guys are the very best. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Rough road riding high through the mountains, climbing, twisting, turning further from my home. Young like a new moon rising, fierce through the rain and lightning, wandering out into this great unknown. And I don't want no one to cry, but tell them if I don't survive, I was born free. I was born free. I was born free. Born free. It's free like a river raging strong. It's the wind I'm facing.